What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Chosen to Become a Dragon God by Kurama Part 5. Now, let's begin. As Naruto approached the scene of the destruction, he gained a clearer view and understanding of the events unfolding at Star Labs. He could perceive a loud roar emanating from within the building, accompanied by significant thuds and a subsequent explosion that reverberated through the ground. In the back of his mind, Naruto considered the possibility of a scenario similar to this occurring in DC Comics, though he felt uncertain as his recollection of comic history was somewhat unclear. It was indeed unusual that Superman was absent during this occurrence, suggesting he was likely engaged with other matters. "Could you please direct me to the source of the energy?" Naruto inquired of Raven as he descended in front of the Ablaze research facility. The fire and smoke had reached levels that would pose significant breathing difficulties for most individuals. However, there was unmistakable movement within the premises. Raven positioned herself beside Naruto and, with her eyes closed, utilized her mystical abilities to detect the energy's location. "It is indeed in motion. And intensifying," she stated. "Does that indicate a positive outcome for me?" Naruto advanced with determination into the burning building to investigate the source. The interior was disorganized, and almost instantly, he could hear voices raised in agitation from further within the lab. "Should I also save them? I hope I haven't become entirely devoid of compassion, have I?" He considered the act of running through the flames without concern, a distinct advantage of his dragon heritage. Soon, he identified an individual in a containment suit beneath the debris of the burning structure. "I require assistance, please." The individual raised his voice while attempting to maneuver, yet he was effectively immobilized. He was on the verge of losing hope. Nevertheless, he would notice a shadow at the edge of his vision. "May I inquire about your identity?" He spoke hesitantly. "I am an individual seeking to achieve financial gain." Naruto responded directly. He obscured his face with his hood, preventing the man from identifying him, but the situation was critical as his life was at stake. "I kindly request." He was unable to complete his sentence before Naruto effortlessly discarded the burning debris as if it were a trivial object and hoisted the man onto his shoulders. "Who else is present?" Naruto inquired, rushing out of the engulfed structure to return to where Raven was positioned to assist the man. "We conducted an interview for the newspaper, which allowed us to grant many of the staff a day off. Professor Faulkner, Dr. Moyers, and Lewis Lane are still down there." The man spoke just before his expression transformed into one of fear. "It is imperative to remove them from that location. The situation could escalate significantly at any moment." "Raven, are you apprehensive about a small flame and the possibility of danger?" Naruto inquired, observing the cloaked woman as she began to levitate. "One cannot escape from death. Therefore, why should I be afraid?" Raven calmly stated before entering the burning building to conduct a search for the missing individuals. Naruto's eyes glowed with a crimson light as he smiled and swiftly retreated indoors, leaving the man on the ground in a state of astonishment. "Are these individuals new heroes?" The individual expressed his thoughts verbally. The condition within the building deteriorated rapidly, and the loud warning signals only exacerbated the situation. Nevertheless, Naruto and Raven continued their search for the missing individuals. The two had recently separated once they were inside. Raven's breathing and vision deteriorated due to the smoke in the air. However, she soon discovered an unconscious woman with blood trickling down her forehead and a minor crack in the helmet of her containment suit. She considered that they might have sustained a concussion due to the impact of an explosion. Azareth Metreon Zinthos. Raven utilized her mastery of shadows to create hands that meticulously cleared the burning debris from her body, subsequently elevating her from the ground with precision. It is concerning for an individual to remain unconscious with a concussion for an extended period. Therefore, Raven made the decision to transport her to a nearby hospital after teleporting outside. The situation was alarming as an individual arrived with an injured person, but the hospital staff promptly responded when they observed the injured woman. After dropping off the woman, Raven returned to the location where Naruto had located the other individual, whose circumstances were not significantly better than those of the others. In fact, his situation appeared to be worse, as he was fleeing from a giant woman in tattered orange clothing. Naruto recognized the individual instantly upon observing her silhouette, as the distinctive hue of her skin and striking red mohawk were quite emblematic for those familiar with the DC universe. It was an event of significant impact. A brilliant academic transformed into a genetically enhanced powerhouse as a result of radiation exposure. The origin story has certainly been explored in other narratives, yet a notable distinction lies in the deliberate nature of the accident, orchestrated by an individual attempting to undermine her during the interview with Lois Lane. Indeed, that individual has transformed into a formidable presence, characterized by significant height and muscle development that could intimidate many. Halt. Please give me some space. I apologize, Lois. The elderly gentleman with a well-groomed beard raised his hands in front of his face, having exhausted all options for concealment from the imposing woman. I am feeling quite frustrated. Rampage surged upward, generating a minor tremor as she fixed her gaze on the individual responsible for the failure of her esteemed project. It is entirely his responsibility. Terminate with extreme prejudice. She clenched her jaw in frustration, raising her right fist with the intent to strike the man forcefully. No. Explosion. The man closed his eyes, bracing himself for the anticipated pain as he observed the woman effortlessly hurling equipment several times his weight across the floor as if they were mere toys. However, rather than experiencing any emotions, he instead perceived the sound of a solid object colliding with another. Excuse me? He opened his eyes to find a hooded man positioned before him, gripping the monster's fist just inches from his face. Had he been a moment slower, that fist would have undoubtedly caused significant harm. I regret to inform you that this is not Lois Lane. It is Karen Falker. Naruto exclaimed, exerting his strength to push the woman back. Raw. Rampage lost her balance as Naruto pushed her back, resulting in her falling onto her back with a significant thud. I should simply allow you to face the consequences of your actions. Naruto fixed a piercing gaze on the man, the intensity of his glowing red eyes momentarily intensifying. This energy is remarkable. No, it is not possible. I kindly request your assistance. I am prepared to provide you with whatever you require. Moyers. Rampage sprang back to her feet and advanced towards Naruto with determination. With each step she took, the ground trembled as she readied herself to incapacitate Naruto with a single punch. While it appeared straightforward, one aspect of this advanced science experiment was anything but simple. If it were to impact an ordinary individual, everything in its vicinity would succumb to the immense force. Explosion. Naruto successfully blocked the attack once more. However, Rampage persisted, delivering another punch aimed at his face. RRRAAH. Please allow me to pass, the agitated professor exclaimed. Regrettably, the fist failed to make contact as Naruto summoned his strength once more, propelling her to the side and into a wall. The wall was destroyed by the force, enveloping Rampage in significant quantities of burning rock. Let's proceed. I trust you recall your previous statements. Naruto seized the man and swiftly exited the rapidly collapsing building with him slung over his shoulder. It took less than a minute to reach the exterior, where others were gathered as the firefighters and police began to arrive. This location is on the verge of significant activity. It is imperative that we leave this location immediately. Dr. Moyers exclaimed as he swiftly exited Naruto's embrace and proceeded to move towards the response team. In the back of his mind, he believed he could evade any obligations to the hooded man, yet he was unaware that there was no place for him to conceal himself, as the man had already alerted others about his presence, who were parked not far away. He will not evade capture. Regarding the reasons behind Naruto's request for something from him, despite being a minor character, the man was involved in several perilous experiments, indicating he may have potential value in the future. Raven, could you please indicate the current source of energy? He inquired as the half-demon hovered beside him. It is approaching us, she responded after utilizing her abilities once more. That was my initial impression, Naruto observed with a smile as the ground began to tremble beneath them. What was that? The individual they rescued earlier called out as he was being assessed by the emergency response team. In the brief encounter with Rampage, he sensed his adrenaline rising as his competitive instincts began to activate. Rampage possessed strength comparable to Superman and was continually increasing her power due to her proximity to the radiation. Naruto clenched his fist firmly, producing a cracking sound from his knuckles as his smile transformed into a broad grin that revealed his developing canines. Upon closer inspection of his hands, one would observe that they appeared red, as though they had been struck by a heavy object. What level of strength would she possess? Was he capable of surpassing her? His eyes gleamed with a fierce intensity as he re-entered the fray, focused on the confrontation with the woman, disregarding the impending explosion that would surpass the previous ones in severity. Naruto. What are you currently engaged in? Raven called out, pursuing him in flight. She was not apprehensive about death, however, witnessing someone recklessly re-enter for no apparent reason disturbed her. She noticed his facial expression, which mirrored her own when she allowed her darker side to take control. Naruto swiftly located Rampage and collided with her forcefully, akin to a semi-truck, toppling the furious woman and obliterating everything in her trajectory. Despite the severity of the impact, she rose to her feet, expelled blood, and advanced towards him with her fist raised, demonstrating remarkable resilience. Naruto chuckled as he intercepted Rampage's fist aimed at his head, causing the ground beneath him to fracture from the force of him digging in his heels. His hood had already fallen back during their battle, revealing a face marked by excitement and intensity, reminiscent of a wild creature. Persevere with greater determination. He exerted force, tightening his grip on the orange creature's hand and elevating her into the air, only to bring her back down with significant impact, resulting in a considerable crater formed by her body. Rampage experienced pain throughout her body, however, she also sensed a powerful strength flowing within her as her mind dulled to all the warning signals. She would increase in height and body mass as she propelled herself upward from the ground, colliding with Naruto and breaking through a wall. Explosion. The wall was unable to withstand her strength. Please focus and complete your responsibilities. Kurama exclaimed internally. The dragon remained quiet for an extended period, observing the actions of his successor. He was significantly distressed, however, how could he hold him entirely responsible? The dragon understood the impact of the boy's dragon half on his cognition and is an advocate for adhering to one's instincts. However, given the condition of Naruto's psyche, his instincts take precedence over his rational mind, leading him to engage in actions he typically would not consider. Naruto was unable to hear Kurama as he experienced an intense sensation throughout his body, akin to being engulfed in flames, with that heat seeking an outlet. Following the tackle by Rampage, he would dislodge her before forcefully bringing her down, resulting in the formation of another crater with fine cracks surrounding it. Naruto, please pay attention to what I am saying. Please cease your actions immediately. Kurama anticipated that Naruto's instincts would deteriorate as time progressed. Naruto must attain a minimum of the 4th stage to gain control over his instincts. Pamela and Harley attempted to reach him mentally, however, he had been completely focused on his confrontation with the modified human, tuning them out entirely. Azareth Metreon Zinthos. Raven reached her limit with Naruto's conduct and utilized her abilities to restrain him with tentacles formed from dark energy. What is happening? Her thoughts ceased as she instantly recognized the reason for the current Naruto's lack of response to her calls. It was the energy he was receiving. She perceived it traversing the air and merging with Naruto's body. What is the reason for the significant impact on him? Please refrain from interfering with my efforts. Naruto let out a powerful roar that resonated throughout the area, prompting those nearby to wince in discomfort as they attempted to shield their ears. He began to absorb the radiation during their initial confrontation, marking the beginning of the era. Dragons possess the capability to absorb a wide range of energy types. However, certain species pose greater risks than others. If not handled appropriately, one may encounter significant challenges. At this moment, Naruto experienced a profound sense of pain, an overwhelming surge of power, and a resolute determination to decisively defeat the adversary before him. Soon, his body began to undergo a transformation as his skin started to take on a golden hue, eventually replaced by patches of scales resembling diamonds. The transformation continued, with his hair beginning to take on a golden hue while his nails evolved into claws. I am proceeding now. Harley could no longer remain in the driver's seat of the RV after hearing the commotion and promptly exited, bat in hand. Pamela furrowed her brow and positioned herself in front of Harley. Are you out of your mind? Entering that place could lead to significant consequences for your future. You are not even bulletproof. What leads you to believe you will be blast-proof? They indicated that it was going to explode. Please move aside, Red. You are aware, just as I am, when you heard Honeybun. He is experiencing discomfort. I am experiencing it, Harley responded, clutching her chest. Despite listening to Naruto, she could sense the mark on her chest searing with anger and pain. Harley was acutely aware of pain, and she was determined to prevent the man she loved from enduring it, especially when there might be a way for her to assist him. Are you suggesting that I am unaware of that? Pamela exclaimed as her eyes began to illuminate. Myra, please return immediately. Please refrain from obstructing my path. Goo. Raven exerted considerable effort to maintain her grip on Naruto as he began to resist her control. Nonetheless, she was determined not to release him. Azareth. Metreon Zinthos. She reiterated, reinforcing her grip on him. Raven recognized the impending situation and, with a swift motion of her other hand, established a protective barrier around them just moments before circumstances escalated. A powerful explosion unprecedented in scale impacted the city, as flames engulfed the building alongside a peculiar sphere of charged energy that obliterated the structure. Individuals needed to protect their eyes due to the intensity of the brightness. However, fortunately, there were no bystanders in the vicinity. That was their expectation. However, they soon encountered another issue as the fire engulfing the building intensified, and if it is not contained, the potential damage to the surrounding structures could be significant. Additionally, the charged energy globe was exhibiting an increase in mass, a peculiar phenomenon that led to concerning assumptions. All individuals are to evacuate immediately. Please leave this area immediately. A police captain commanded authority as individuals began to disperse rapidly, accompanied by cries and widespread chaos. Where did they believe Superman was? Was he not their protector? A few minutes prior. I am fully aware of that. Pamela expressed her frustration to Harley, her eyes filled with tears. However, we cannot simply, Myra, cease immediately. The Dragon Guard remained oblivious to the villainess's words, as her thoughts were solely consumed by her master, who was enduring immense suffering. Myra swiftly ran towards the burning building, navigating through the crowd with remarkable strength. Hello. Please hold on. That action is not permissible. A police officer attempted to intervene, but Myra deftly struck the man and proceeded with her sprint towards the building. Several individuals attempted to intervene, but they were unable to match her pace and could not keep up with her speed. I am on my way, Master. Her blue eyes gleamed with intensity as her form began to transform into vines that traversed the air with a swiftness surpassing her already impressive running speed, which generated a noticeable breeze. Myra's body maneuvered through the air, evading the flames and descending rubble as she focused on the position of her master. A sense of relief washed over her when she saw him in Raven's grasp, but soon a barrier encased them, preventing her from reaching him. Currently available following the explosion, Raven felt the pressure mounting as she maintained the barrier while also restraining Naruto. What is motivating me to go to such lengths for him? She contemplated as she gritted her teeth, sweat trickling down her brow from her exertion. I have a strong aversion to you, Raven muttered under her breath as she maintained the barrier. Regrettably for the half-demon, she was about to encounter another issue in the near future. Rampage, whose strength was increasing, was expanding in size with each passing moment due to the intensity of the explosion. Her body was absorbing the radiation at a concerning rate, causing her veins to become visibly pronounced against her muscles. Her eyes have long since diminished in their capacity for intelligence, and all she could perceive was red as fury consumed every aspect of her actions. The entity referred to as Karen began to strike forcefully against Raven's barrier, intensifying the pressure on the half-demon. Raven experienced an overwhelming pressure, akin to being weighed down by an immense force. Nevertheless, she maintained the integrity of the barrier, even as it began to show signs of strain. I am quite frustrated. Naruto, please regain your focus. Raven let out a pained groan. Ensure that the best version of yourself remains in control. It may seem appropriate and may even give the impression that you are truly embracing your authentic self. However, it is not the case. You must confront it. Throughout the duration, Raven maintained her proximity to him, while Naruto persistently utilized his strength to overcome her magic. However, an additional occurrence was taking place within him as the explosion commenced, leading him to sense a fracture occurring internally. What is the rationale behind my current actions? Am I truly so lacking in strength that I yield to my instincts? What is the reason for her stopping me? Naruto's eyes narrowed as he caught sight of a peculiar cluster of vines igniting in the corner of his vision. Typically, an object of that nature would be incinerated and reduced to ash within seconds. However, it appeared to resist the flames, as if it were refusing to succumb to the fire. What is this familiarity? Wait, is that Myra? He internally shouted as he observed the cluster of vines encircle Rampage's neck, constricting it as it gradually transformed back into Myra, who was restraining the monster's neck and depriving it of oxygen. Rampage promptly ceased their assault on Raven's barrier to alleviate the constricting hold on her neck. However, despite Myra's body being engulfed in flames, she maintained her grip. Observing this, Naruto gradually regains his composure and begins to experience a sense of urgency. Myra, what are you currently engaged in? Access to this area is not permitted. You are a plant. He raised his voice in a loud manner. I am here to assist you in achieving mastery. Myra responded as her arms transformed into vines, tightening their grip around Rampage's neck. Rampage responded decisively, forcefully tearing through the vines while impacting Myra against any sturdy object capable of inflicting harm. Are you lacking understanding? Please pay attention to what I am saying. Please leave the premises immediately. No, I will not. Myra responded assertively, her blue eyes shining brightly as her entire form was surrounded by an aura that blended gold and green. Naruto was taken aback. It was the first instance of Myra raising her voice, as she had consistently been soft-spoken. Even more surprising was her refusal to comply with his directive. Wasn't she expected to listen to him without reservations? At last, you have regained your composure, Kurama reflected internally. Why is Myra not responding to my input? It is my belief that her creation resulted from an unforeseen circumstance. A combination of two forces. It appears that she may have exhibited rebellious tendencies later on, but assigning her a name seemed to accelerate this development. Dragon guards inherently possess the same elemental affinity as their creator. However, this affinity has been halved due to her current physical form. Ultimately, her situation is critical. She must depart to ensure her survival. The dragon provided an explanation. Naruto unleashes a powerful roar, channeling his draconic essence with intensity to escape Raven's grasp. The woman anticipated that he would leap out to confront the formidable lady once more, but he instead took an unexpected course of action. Bam! He began striking his own face. The punches were not lacking in force, as each connection to his face produced a noticeable shockwave. Naruto inflicted multiple punches upon himself to the extent that he began to bleed from his mouth. However, he persisted without hesitation. What are you doing? Raven raised her voice, but her focus swiftly returned to the barrier that began to fracture, as the half-demon lacked the strength to transport them all to safety. Concentrate, 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 concentrate. It is important to note that Rampage ceased her actions solely due to Superman absorbing her energy. I will need to undertake the same actions and additional tasks. It is essential to remain grounded and not let your instincts take control. Naruto contemplated while clenching his teeth. Raven, please release me, Naruto said quietly, wiping the blood from his mouth. Raven was on the verge of expressing her dissent when she was met with a piercing glare from Naruto. The expression shifted from one of chaos or exhilaration to one of resolute determination. Observing Naruto direct a glare at her in her present condition almost caused her to lose control of her other side. However, she swiftly managed to regain composure and exhaled a long sigh. Azeroth, Metrian Zinthos, she spoke softly as a smaller barrier enveloped her, while the other began to diminish. Foolish, she reflected, though her frustration was directed inward, recognizing her own role in the situation. Once the larger barrier dissipated, Naruto was struck by the intensity of the surrounding energy, and he instantly sensed his mind beginning to falter. This is quite intense, and I had overlooked this earlier. He contemplated as every inch of his body felt as though it was engulfed in flames, which should not have posed a challenge given his dragon nature. However, this sensation was unlike mere fire. It resembled the searing pain of chemical acid, affecting him on an entirely different level. The surrounding energy may be disordered and could explain why you were readily influenced by your instincts. Maintain your resilience. If you can fully harness this energy, I am confident you will achieve another breakthrough, Kurama stated. I am not pursuing this for a significant advancement. Naruto approached Rampage, who was still grappling with Myra, engulfed in flames that enveloped her entire body. With each step Naruto took towards the two, it felt as though a significant weight was burdening him, compelling him downward as he approached with his hand extended towards Rampage. The lady's determination to persist despite her airflow being restricted was remarkable. With each passing minute, her body expanded, compelling Myra to reinforce her grip. I am undertaking this initiative to preserve, Naruto declared before unleashing another roar that reverberated through the ground, leading many to believe they were experiencing an earthquake. I disagree with you. Please allow me to pass, Harley shouted, evading Pamela's grasp as she rushed toward the sphere of energy with an intense expression. I will not allow this to happen. I will not. Harley. Pamela pursued the blonde in an attempt to halt her, but at her current pace, she would never be able to catch up to the antagonist. Harley focused solely on assisting her partner, and she was determined to see it through, undeterred by any obstacles as long as she drew breath. What is the reason for my perceived weakness? I felt vulnerable during my parents' abuse. I was misled by Joker's deceit. And now I find myself feeling powerless in this situation? Absolutely not, the antagonist exclaimed, and suddenly her pet hyenas, previously resting in the RV, surged forward, swiftly maneuvering past Pamela to join Harley. Soon, Harley's vision began to take on a crimson hue as she experienced an unusual surge of energy flowing through her body. The power was intense and primal in nature, leading to noticeable changes in Harley's appearance. Nevertheless, she quickly regained her composure before any significant incident occurred, as the sphere of energy abruptly vanished from her sight. It vanished as though it had never existed, leaving behind only scattered rubble. For a brief moment, Harley believed Naruto had succumbed, as she was unable to sense his presence through her brand. However, she soon heard groaning in the vicinity. Bud and Lou maintained proximity to her as she navigated the debris and located Raven, who was seated on the ground. The half-demon appeared to be in poor condition, yet she remained mostly conscious. Could you please inform me of Naruto's whereabouts? Harley inquired, and she directed her gaze just northward, leading the villainess's attention to an unidentified unconscious woman clad in tattered clothing, alongside a half-naked blonde-haired man grasping what appeared to be a mound of ash. Dear Honeybun, Harley rushed to his side, embracing him and reveling in his familiar warmth. Please halt. Her progress was interrupted upon hearing his voice. She could not comprehend why he would choose to distance himself from her. Is he not aware of the concern she had for him? I am currently attempting to concentrate, Naruto stated, directing his focus towards the pile of ash he held in his arms. Upon closer inspection, the outline of a woman becomes discernible. Are you all right, Master? A voice inquired. The voice was so faint that one had to concentrate intently to catch it, as if the speaker's very existence depended on each breath they took. I am currently experiencing significant discomfort, however, it is likely not as severe as what you are enduring. He smiled softly as he began to show signs of emotion while he carefully lowered the woman to the ground before kneeling beside her. I do not experience pain. What is it like? The situation is quite challenging, as there are various forms of pain. However, I believe that the pain associated with loss is particularly profound. Therefore, I would appreciate your cooperation in this matter. Naruto struggled to speak, his voice thick with emotion as tears flowed down his cheeks. The substantial energy coursed through his body as his heart operated at maximum capacity to transform into draconic essence. However, rather than fully absorbing it, he began to transfer it to the woman in the form of golden light. What are you currently engaged in? It is essential to harness that energy to achieve a significant breakthrough. You were very near to reaching the third stage. Kindly refrain from speaking. I informed you. I was not pursuing this for a breakthrough. Unfortunately, that is disappointing. I made a mistake. Naruto responded, proceeding to transfer the essence as the golden light enveloped the woman's entire body, creating a luminous cocoon. The experience of losing someone. I misplaced the bracelet you gifted me. I no longer experience that feeling. Is that comparable? The woman contemplated. I will purchase a replacement for you. It's perfectly fine, Myra, Naruto stated with a strained expression. The process was challenging, and at times he felt faint, yet he persevered in transferring the essence. I am currently experiencing a pleasant warmth. It is quite enjoyable. Excuse me, may I ask you something? Indeed. What does a kiss feel like? Myra inquired. The dragon guard sensed her consciousness fading and wished to understand it, as it was the most intriguing aspect she observed while viewing those films. The outcome is contingent upon the individual you choose to kiss, he provided a response. Oh, does it provide a pleasant sensation similar to a gentle head pat? I am uncertain. Pamela arrived on the scene at this time and found it peculiar that everyone remained silent now that the threat of destruction had passed. What is the current situation? Is everything in order? Harley, Naruto? I am uncertain. He advised me to maintain my distance. It appears that he may be in possession of someone. Where is my... Pamela promptly discovered her answer upon overhearing her conversation with Naruto. What is the reason for her weak tone? What is happening, Naruto? She inquired of him internally. I'm making efforts to prevent Myra from vanishing, but nothing seems effective. I am attempting to offset her loss of essence with my own contributions, but it appears to be ineffective. It feels as though I am contributing to an insatiable void. Naruto responded with a groan. The longer he persisted, the greater the pain he endured, yet he could not cease, especially when a life was at stake. Is she in critical condition? Is there any action we can take? Pamela approached his side and knelt down beside him. Are we? Hold on, Pamela, please place your hands on mine for a moment, Naruto exclaimed promptly. Pamela was uncertain of his intentions, yet she complied and positioned her hands atop his. The antagonist would promptly experience a tugging sensation as a green light materialized around her hand. Soon after, the ground beneath them began to rumble as vines emerged from the earth, wrapping around the light cocoon and forming an additional layer around Myra. Indeed, that is satisfactory, Naruto murmured as his eyes fluttered back before he collapsed onto the ground. The events that transpired provided him with a sense of relief, and once that occurred, his body reached its limit. It is difficult to comprehend the situation. Such energy has been expended unnecessarily. He could have simply summoned another one. Several hours have passed since the incident in Metropolis, and the designated teams are actively engaged in the cleanup efforts. Individuals speculated about the fate of those who had come to their rescue. However, when the firefighters and police assessed the damage, they encountered only a massive shadow of a raven that vanished into the sky. The individuals who had rescued them were en route to Washington, D.C., a journey that would take nearly a week by vehicle. Pamela was at the wheel of the RV, while Raven observed the large cocoon situated in the center of the lounge area, and Harley kept a watchful eye on the unconscious Naruto in the master bedroom. After another hour, Naruto began to awaken from his sleep, experiencing a sense of well-being despite some lingering discomfort. I see you are awake. The antagonist expressed her delight as she carefully embraced him, cradling him as though he were the most delicate of objects. Indeed. I hope you are doing well, Harley inquired earnestly while gently stroking his cheek. I believe so, Naruto responded with a sigh while massaging his head. Excellent. Harley smiled with a hint of mischief as she looked him directly in the eyes. Ouch. Naruto rubbed his cheek after Harley had delivered a forceful slap, and to his surprise, it stung slightly. Harley then stood up to secure the door and turned to face the astonished Naruto. Was there any pain involved? She spoke softly as she gradually removed her clothing while positioning herself on the bed. Every inch of her snow-white skin was visible to Naruto as he meticulously committed each detail to memory. Notice. A caution regarding lemons has been issued. You have been duly informed. He had observed her form on multiple occasions, yet this instance felt somewhat distinct. Nevertheless, he did not dwell on it as the antagonist placed her lips against his cheek. Harley would repeatedly kiss it before progressing to his neck, gently nibbling between her soft, pleasant kisses. Naruto remained unaware, But as she kissed him, tears began to stream down her face, and he only acknowledged it when he felt a wet drop on his skin. Initially, he believed it to be saliva, but as he glanced down at her kissing his bare chest, he noticed the tears streaming down her face. Naruto began to extend his arms to comfort her, assuring her that everything would be all right. "Please refrain from making physical contact," Harley called out, bringing his actions to a stop. "Please be quiet at this moment," the antagonist whispered softly as she pressed her kisses against his chest, slowly making her way back up to his neck, playfully biting it at times. Naruto found himself expressing discomfort as the sensation of her warm, soft lips against his skin was undeniably pleasurable, particularly when the contact was slow and sensual, evoking a sense of arousal. "You're an idiot. You know that? That's meant to be my job, not yours." Harley felt a shiver run through her as the tears began to stream down her cheeks even more now. "So, you're saying you're being a bit of an idiot? Yeah, I don't really mind. You'll still be there to love me, right?" she asked while kissing her way from his right shoulder down to his hand. Once there, she began kissing each finger one by one before moving on to his other hand. "I'll always love you, no doubt about it," he let out a sigh, enjoying the moment. Harley's weird stunt was unlike anything he had ever gone through, especially with the blonde's lips exploring every injury he had. The feeling somehow put him at ease while his impressive member began to create a noticeable tent under the blanket he was partially covered with on the bed. Naruto growled as her constant kissing became overwhelming, especially when she decided to throw her hot tongue into the mix. "I really love you a lot. I really hate seeing you in pain while I just sit here doing nothing. You took me in even though you knew I wasn't completely together in the head. I had a feeling it was just a way to calm me down. Deep down, I knew that." "Harley, yeah, I get it," she softly murmured, gently cradling his face in her hands. "I had a feeling that was how it was, but then you said you'd make me the happiest girl on the planet. I was so thrilled back then, and I could really sense your authenticity." Harley let out a sigh, her bright blue eyes locking onto his as her left hand gently ran through his hair. "I get it now, you're the one I've been waiting for." She kisses him deeply, savoring the moment as her tongue explores and dances around his lips. Naruto growled against her lips, playfully battling her tongue with his as his strong arms enveloped her, drawing her in tight even when there was no place left to move. The kiss was so intense, it felt like it went on forever, and the sounds of pleasure echoed around the room. After a few minutes, Harley pulled back, gasping for air, her tongue slightly hanging out as the strand of saliva connecting them finally snapped. Harley felt a little out of it, but she decided to shift out of his embrace, gliding down his body as she tugged the blanket away from his lower half, revealing his impressive shaft. "You're never going to shake me off. I'm that wild friend who will stick by your side through thick and thin, no matter what." She exhaled softly against him, her warm breath teasing as she playfully ran her tongue along his length, daring herself to cover it entirely with her essence. "Ah!" Naruto couldn't help but let out a curse at how amazing the villainess's tongue felt against him. He could actually feel his toes curling a little as she picked up the pace. "Wow, you're really something. You want to take me for a ride with that, huh?" she softly murmured, holding the base of him while nuzzling her face against it, spreading the precum that dripped from the tip. Naruto really wanted to take charge of things, but it just didn't sit well with him, so he had to deal with Harley's antics that were getting under his skin. Harley couldn't help but giggle at the thought. She really just wanted to let her man take care of everything. But, you know what? Not tonight. Her warm mouth would soon part, allowing the massive head to slide in as she closed her lips around it. Right after that, Harley began to suck while her tongue playfully swirled around it. The villainess let out a groan as she pleasured her lover, squeezing her thighs together. She was getting incredibly aroused just from sucking him off. Naruto was done just sitting around, so he leaned down and grabbed the blonde's hair as she took even more of him into her mouth. Harley was totally okay with this, and honestly, it even got her a little excited as she felt herself getting wet on the mattress, creating a noticeable spot. She let out even louder sounds, struggling a bit as she tried to take more of Naruto in while her grip tightened. "Give it to me, give it," she said directly to Naruto's mind as she started using her hands while also sucking him off. One hand would gently caress the base of his cock while her other hand played with his sack, giving them a little squeeze. Feeling all that pleasure and being really backed up, Naruto let out a loud growl as he came, tightening his grip on her hair. Harley was taken aback by the amount, doing her best to take in every bit of his thick, hot spunk. But it turned out to be a bit overwhelming, and she let go, allowing the rest of the cum to spray into the air, landing on her hair and face with his scent. Ah! Harley gasped for air, gripping Naruto's firm length with her hands. Her blue eyes would then meet his gaze as he looked down at her, and she swirled the last bit of his cum in her mouth before swallowing it with a sense of enjoyment. Hey, Naruto, she let out a soft groan, her cheeks flushing a bright red as the blood rushed to them. Harley definitely wasn't satisfied, and she could see that Naruto felt the same way. The villainess could sense the eager beast inside her, just waiting to be unleashed and feed on her desires. But she wasn't ready to let Naruto take the spotlight just yet, so she decided to climb on top of him, her backside facing him. From this angle, Naruto had a clear view of her toned and beautiful back, all the way down to her petite yet perfectly rounded rear end. Could you stay and watch me for a little while longer? She laughed softly, licking her lips as she looked at him, his still wet and throbbing cock catching her eye before she steadied herself. Oh, I really want you right now. Harley was feeling restless and just had to have Naruto close to her to ease the intense desire she was experiencing. Once she had positioned herself with her back to him, the villainess would get herself just right while lifting her backside up. She let out a soft groan, rubbing the tip of him against her slick entrance while holding onto his thighs to keep her balance before moving on to the next step. Slowly, she eased herself down onto him, letting him fill her warm and inviting space. Harley had taken him inside her several times already, but she still loved the way he stretched her and filled her completely, as if she was made for him. She felt her whole body shake as he filled her completely, her insides clenching around him while she gently swayed her hips, letting out soft moans into the air. She was getting close to her orgasm just from the insertion, but she gritted her teeth to hold off the inevitable a little longer. Hey there, sweetie, the villainess let out another moan, picking up the pace as she moved her hips. She lifted them high and brought them back down, playfully slamming against Naruto's hips. Naruto let out a low growl, his hands resting on her hips as she kept moving, driving him wild with her eager touch. It was barely 5 minutes when Harley let out a high-pitched moan, signaling her first climax. The villainess brought him closer to her, hoping to soothe her fiery desires, but instead, it only sparked an even greater flame as she shifted once more. Her body moved with each impact, and watching it happen made Naruto feel a rush of excitement that he just couldn't ignore anymore. He began to sway his hips, pushing himself deeper inside her while playfully smacking her backside a few times. She yelped from the pain, but unlike when Joker hit her, she felt a rush of pleasure every time Naruto slapped her ass, making her tighten up. The last time he hit her was at Penguin's restaurant, and she really thought she was waking up to something new. But now, she was aware. She realized she had a bit of a masochistic side. Give it your all, push it more, she asked her lover, and he happily obliged, playfully smacking her backside with more strength, gradually reddening her skin while he thrusts even harder inside of her. The mix of sensations quickly led the villainess to her second climax, and it hit her even harder than the first, leaving her mind blank as she soaked his swollen length. This guy, I'm never letting him go. She thought about it, breaking free from Naruto's hold and turning around to look at his face. Her eyes sparkled with a red light as she looked straight into his, gently wrapping her hand around him. Feel free to share everything. Harley leaned in close, sliding himself back inside her, letting out a low groan as he felt the warmth envelop him. The villainess thought she was ready after saying those words, but when he grabbed her backside, she completely lost her composure, feeling his strong hands gripping her sore rear end. Her moans were like a melody that Naruto was eager to listen to as he moved into her with everything he had. Harley got caught up in his speed and began to see stars as she leaned in, wrapping her arms around his neck. She couldn't say anything anymore. All that came out were loud, lewd moans as her desire hit an all-time high. She was ready to do anything and everything for this guy. The villainess was on the brink of another spasm when she suddenly felt something hot and thick surge deep inside her. He's finishing inside me. Yes. 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 She felt a haze settle over her thoughts as she dragged her nails across his chest, feeling him release inside her. As she reached her third orgasm, her body responded by tightening up, and waves of pleasure made her arch her back just a bit. For the next few minutes, all you could hear were gasps and groans. She really felt it this time. Once she came down from her high, her body shivered and twitched while she clung to Naruto. Once she got her bearings, she'd let out a growl of her own before pressing her lips against his. She needed a lot more, way more. Hours would pass, and there was still some action happening. They were full of energy and really craved each other's company. In that first hour, something unusual happened. A strange, hot energy surged through Naruto, intensifying his desire for his mate. He started getting a bit rough with her, and she was screaming for more. Seriously, this is happening again, Kurama was thinking. Morning was just around the corner, and the RV had already settled in a parking lot. Naruto woke up, trying to shake off the villainess who was clinging to him and didn't want him to leave for a quick hot shower. He took a moment to cover himself up a bit before stepping out of the room, but it turned out to be unnecessary since Raven wasn't there. Whenever Pamela saw his face, she couldn't help but blush, thinking about her turn with him. But more than that, she found herself wondering if she should share the news with him. "Hey, do you know where Raven is?" he asked as he started taking off his clothes to hop in the shower. Pamela takes a moment to clear her throat. She's out there meditating because she really needed to clear her head. Oh, I suppose that's just how it goes. He just shrugged. "I'm not really sure about that." Pamela felt her cheeks heat up again as she recalled what happened last night. The soundproof room, well, it's not really that soundproof. She leaned in and whispered to him. Naruto would be taken aback and feel a wave of regret for acting that way around a woman who wasn't his own. But what if I make a move? He wondered, relishing the warm water cascading over his skin. "I totally think the shower was worth every penny." Azeroth Metrian Zinthos. Azeroth Metrian Zinthos. Raven sat cross-legged on top of the RV, repeating her chant over and over. So dirty, that's just gross." The half-demon's mind was racing, and even though she kept a calm expression, there was a hint of red on her cheeks as she experienced feelings she never imagined she'd have in her life. Once everyone finished what they had to do, Naruto would take a moment to check on the cocoon that held Myra's body. He could see that she was still bouncing back from what happened yesterday, and he couldn't help but wonder how long it would take for her to really come out of it. "Hey, it's really not your fault, you know," Pamela said, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind and planting a gentle kiss on his shoulder. She was aware of what could happen, but she jumped in anyway to help you. "I get that, but honestly, I feel like this is on me. If I had been stronger, maybe it wouldn't have turned out this way," Naruto said, feeling a little down. "All right, just accept it and then keep going. It's really that simple," Harley chirped and wrapped her arms around him from the front. "There's no time to whine like a pup. Hey, are you a dragon?" She smiled warmly, gently cupping his face in her soft hands. Naruto chuckled at this, and the villainess joined in with her own laughter, wrapping her arms around her man even tighter. "Looks like it's time to get serious about shaping up." Naruto flashed a grin. It's been a few days since the whole thing with Rampage, and Myra still hasn't emerged from her cocoon. But noticing her steady rise in energy kept Naruto feeling relaxed while he focused on something else instead of just waiting. He started cultivating again, and surprisingly, he found it a little easier to stay calm, even with Harley always teasing him. It was a little frustrating, but Naruto understood that she was just trying to unwind. Plus, she even started cultivating after deciding she wanted to be strong enough to protect him. The villainess started to see some success as her strength grew, and soon her kicks were powerful enough to break rock. During those days, Naruto began to pick up on the fact that Pamela was acting a little off around him. Pamela would gaze at him for what felt like hours, almost lost in thought. It seemed like she had something significant to share, but whenever he asked, she'd just shrug it off with the dreaded, "It's nothing." Naruto could have pushed her for it, but it just didn't sit right with him to do that to someone he loved. But he won't be waiting around for too long because he'll get his answer eventually. Today, they figured it was a good time to take a break and pulled over at a campsite by a pretty popular lake. It wasn't too packed, but there were still a handful of folks soaking up a regular day by the water. The lake and the land around it were nice and clean, showing that the local folks and the campsite workers really took good care of the place. The group was aware that Naruto planned to make a stop here, so they decided to grab some bathing suits from a nearby store before heading to the lake. Naruto was just in some black swimming trunks and a white t-shirt, while Harley rocked a blue and red two-piece swimsuit that really matched her freshly dyed hair, which she styled into a cute side ponytail for the day. She looked amazing, especially with her long, beautiful legs on display for everyone to admire. Pamela, on the other hand, was hard to miss in her red one-piece. The sides were cut out and laced together, making it a real showstopper. She confidently showed off her beautiful curves, and when she changed, Naruto couldn't resist playfully squeezing her behind. "I can't recall ever being to one," Pamela said, her cheeks turning pink as she hurried off to help Harley arrange the tables and chairs in their designated spot, just a few steps from the lake. Totally get that. My parents were never really into the usual stuff either." Harley let out a groan, rolling her eyes as she thought back to her rough childhood. "I just don't get the point of this. You really should keep working on Naruto. Trigon could show up at any moment, and you might not be ready for it." Raven shot Naruto a glare, arms crossed tightly over her chest, clearly not pleased. She was still in her usual outfit, which Naruto thought was pretty sexy, but she always had her cloak wrapped around her. "I get where you're coming from about the threat, and I really do, but I just thought it might be nice to take a breather after everything we've been through. Honestly, I just need to take a little breather," Naruto responded. "Come on, Rave, just relax a bit," Harley said with a big smile. "I really think it could be good for you as well. You've seemed a bit down lately." Raven faced the villainess and said, "I'm not." She suddenly paused when she noticed Naruto taking off his shirt out of the corner of her eye. She had no real reason to stare, but there she was, soaking it all in like she was admiring a work of art. His muscles weren't huge, but they were really well defined, and when she looked at his strong back, she couldn't help but wonder what it would feel like to run her fingers over it. "Hey there. Hey, Rave, are you there?" Harley waved her hand in front of the half-demon's face, bringing her back from her daze. "Hey, you weren't checking out my guy, were you?" Harley asked, her smile turning into a frown as she stepped closer. "You know, if you..." "Hey, Harley," Naruto shouted for her while he made his way to the lake, carrying an inner tube he had just inflated a little while ago. "I'm on my way, Honeybun," she yelled, running after him and leaping onto his back, laughing like a kid who just arrived at the playground. "You really should take some time to relax, though." "That sounds great." Pamela plopped down at the table and began scrolling through her phone. If you were to peek at her screen, you'd spot things like, baby clothes, or, best baby names. "Oh, those are adorable. When should I tell him?" she was thinking. Raven smacked her face and let out a sigh as she leaned against the RV, which was currently disguised to avoid drawing too much attention. Out of the blue, Pamela stood up and headed into the RV. A few moments later, she came back out with a bag and handed it to Raven. "Here you go." "What is it?" Raven peered into the bag, her expression a mix of confusion and curiosity. Just taking a peek inside the bag would make her face turn bright red, and she'd quickly drop it in shock. "No way. No way am I putting on that tea thing." The half-demon let out a shriek. Pamela let out a sigh and shook her head. "Just wear it. You're not going to lose anything, and honestly, you've got an amazing body. I really don't want to give that creep any more ideas." "Pervert." Pamela lifted an eyebrow. "Oh, I get it now. It sounds like you're feeling pretty confident about your looks, huh? You really think you can charm my hubby? She laughed a little. Huh, and no. Raven shook her head, stammering a bit. Hey, wait, don't misunderstand me, she yelled, tapping her foot in frustration. Wow, he actually had a point. What are you talking about? It's been a few hours since they kicked off their lake day, and everything's been pretty chill for the group. Harley really put the fear into a few women who tried to chat with Naruto. She even went as far as to threaten them, saying she'd cut them off and leave them hanging if they dared to breathe his air. The women felt a mix of fear and jealousy as they watched the villainess kiss him passionately, almost like she was claiming him for herself. Naruto couldn't help but smile a bit at this, but he was really glad to have the girl around to fend off the ones he wasn't interested in. Soon after, the two would reunite with the others, and Naruto headed straight for Pamela. She was still checking her phone occasionally while enjoying the sunlight filtering through the trees. Naruto quickly put her hands over her eyes and chuckled a little before saying anything. Can you guess who it is? I'm not really sure, maybe a pervert. Pamela smirked as she leaned her head back. That's not right, Naruto said flatly. Can you please be quiet? He frowned and pulled his hands away. Sure thing, love, Pamela laughed softly as she wrapped an arm around his neck, drawing him in for a passionate kiss. She said his lips felt like a drug she was totally hooked on. I really love you, she thought to him before pulling away from the kiss. So, are you going to fill me in on what's been happening? Naruto thought to himself, twirling her red hair a little. Naruto. The redhead let out a sigh. Can you give me a little more time? I'll definitely fill you in tonight, alright. She stood up from the chair and gave him a hug. I'm just trying to get myself ready emotionally. Okay, so tonight it is. Hey, where's Raven? The RV door swung open, and for just a moment, he felt a surge of gratitude towards the gods that had brought him here, well, specifically a dragon god. This feels a little too. Raven paused mid-sentence as she sensed a burning stare on her, glancing up to find Naruto watching her. She could sense his intense desire for her, and it made her heart race a little faster. It was quite the scandal for the half-demon to don a cloak, as her stunning figure was definitely a sight to behold. She had on a black cross-strap swimsuit that fit her body snugly, maybe a bit too snug, really. Her smooth light gray skin was on display for everyone, but honestly, the first thing people would probably notice are her hips and thighs. Did they really have to look so tempting? So, what does that say about her backside? Naruto just had this strong urge to see everything. If he wasn't thinking about capturing her before, he sure is now. Hey, don't just stare, Harley yelled, shielding his eyes. I wasn't. You're not telling the truth. All three girls mentioned. I'm really sorry, Raven. I thought I had your size right, but I guess I was wrong. Pamela let out a sigh. Raven hurried back into the RV to grab her cloak, wanting to cover up before stepping outside again. How did I end up wearing that? She pulled her hood up, trying to hide her reddening face. Hey, Naruto, I believe I might have a method to erase your memories. Raven shot him a fierce look, her eyes beginning to glow. Thanks for the offer, but I think I'll pass this time. He gave a smile. What if I throw this counter offer your way? Naruto took out a brand new Nintendo Switch from the box and handed it over to her. What's this all about? Wait, you have games. Harley let out a scream. Why didn't you let me know? I just never got to it, and honestly, it was more of an impulse buy. Hey, what about games? So, you're thinking you can win me over with games? Raven shot him a fierce look, her teeth clenched tight. I promise you'll really enjoy it, and I've got other options if it's not quite your thing. I won't let. Grr. Raven's stomach let out a noise. Looks like it's time to grab a bite. Naruto chuckled. The sun was starting to set, signaling to everyone that it was time to wrap things up and either head home or settle in for the night at their campsite. But for Naruto, he decided to use this time to train again since the energy here was pretty decent. He felt like he was getting close to the third stage, which was when Kurama could start showing him some spells. While he was cultivating, He made it a point to practice his dragon transformation skills inside the RV. He found out about them some time back, but he never really put them to use since he didn't see a reason to. Naruto couldn't fully transform into a dragon until he reached at least the 5th stage, but he can sprout scales and claws pretty much right away. He can only keep it together for less than 10 minutes, and if he goes any longer, his instincts will start to take over. But you know what? It really paid off to train because it boosted his strength and defense like crazy. After a few hours, Pamela gently placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, letting him know she was ready to talk. Naruto got up slowly as Pamela took his hand, guiding him to the bedroom and then locking the door behind them. The villainess then tugged him over to the bed to sit next to her. Naruto. She let out a sigh while she linked her fingers with his. Naruto noticed she was shivering a little, so he gave her hand a comforting squeeze. Pamela really appreciated the gesture. It helped her feel a bit calmer before she spoke. Hey Naruto, what are your thoughts about me? You know, I really think you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, and I still can't believe I got lucky enough to be with you. He said softly. Pamela gave a small smile upon hearing those words. I get it. Things were a little unusual for us, but right after you claimed me, you promised to take responsibility. Do you think you might regret that? No way. Unless you're thinking about letting me go. I've shared so many secrets with you. Naruto flashed a grin. What secrets are we talking about? Pamela grinned and playfully smacked his arm. Hey, you still haven't shared everything with me. Do you think you'll be able to open up? She looked straight into his red eyes, trying to catch any hint of doubt. Sure, I'll share everything with you eventually, just not at this moment, is that all right? He responded, giving her hand a little extra squeeze. Do you think it could ever tear us apart? Do I at least get to find that out? I really don't know how I'd handle it if you weren't here with me. She whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. The villainess felt a little hurt that he hadn't shared everything about himself, but she appreciated that he promised to be honest in the future. Nope, looks like you're stuck with me, and I'm going to take you along for the ride, whether you're into it or not. She felt a weight lift off her shoulders after hearing those words, and she couldn't resist wrapping her arms around him, squeezing him tightly and taking in his warm, manly scent to remember it forever. Naruto. I'm P. There was a knock at the door. Hey there, Honeybun. Is Myra really throwing a rave party in her little cocoon? What do you think I should do? What should I do? Harley asked as they watched the cocoon that was supposed to be holding Myra slowly crack open, letting out flashing lights that turned the lounge area into a sort of rave party. Wait, what did you just say? Naruto missed Pamela's full sentence, but he definitely caught a P, and if it's what he thinks it is, then. I'm pregnant, she said softly. Naruto quickly releases Pamela and gets to his feet. Hey there, just hang tight right here. I'll be back in a jiffy. Pamela was worried that her lover might not be thrilled about her pregnancy, and her mind began to race with all the worst-case scenarios. But then, out of nowhere, she felt a warm, passionate kiss on her forehead that made her heart flutter. Hey, babe, Pamela sighed in relief, her lips curling into a lovely smile as she savored the moment. It felt like all her fears and doubts just vanished, and somehow, she found herself falling even more in love with him, something she never thought could happen. Let's chat later. I really love you, Naruto thought to himself as he opened the door, letting in bright flashes of light that made it feel like he was heading to a party, even though there was no music playing. He closed the door behind him, leaving the redhead villainess looking completely stunned. She flopped onto the bed, hugging the body pillow tight to her chest, chuckling and flailing around as she expressed her gratitude to whatever god brought Naruto into her life. If her eyes could change, they'd probably be hearts right now. Hey, Papa is really happy about the news. I'm curious about what we should call you, she softly whispered, gently placing her hand over her belly. The cocoon in the lounge area began to crack open, almost like a butterfly getting ready for its first flight. But instead of wings, a glowing hand emerged, slowly transforming into light brown flesh. While going through everything, Naruto felt like he heard something, but he figured it was just his excitement about the news Pamela shared with him. A heartbeat. Myra's never had one before, huh? He was thinking. It feels just like watching a Sailor Moon transformation sequence. Harley yelled right when more of Myra's body came into view. If that change was intended for the casting couch, that is. She frowned when she realized that Myra was naked as her chest began to emerge from the cocoon. Myra let out a groan and stretched her limbs after her whole body was exposed. She had a slightly different look, with a bigger green streak in her blonde hair that pointed sideways, while the rest of her blonde locks were straight. Her skin had a healthier glow and a deeper brown tone. Everything else felt pretty much the same, but when she stood up, you could really see a big difference. "Hey there, Master," Myra shouted with excitement, zooming past Harley to give Naruto's head a big hug. She was giving his head a big hug. Myra had really shot up in height, now standing several inches taller than him and getting close to 7 feet tall. That's when Naruto began to notice more differences about her. Unlike Pamela, Myra's body was getting closer to Power Girl level, with her well-defined muscles and striking curves. What really caught him off guard was that he could actually hear her heart as her chest moved a bit with each breath, which was something Myra never did before. Wait, she's alive now. He couldn't believe it. His eyes went wide with shock. Wow, I just can't wrap my head around this. I'm honestly at a loss for words with what I'm seeing right now. Kurama exclaimed, clearly taken aback. Okay. Harley jumped in, breaking the moment and nudging Myra aside as he shot a glare at the dragon guard who had just come back to life. Wow, that's amazing. Raven leaned in and whispered as she took in Myra's appearance. I really feel a lot of strength coming from her now, and for the first time, I can actually pick up on her emotions. I was just giving him a hug. Why are you blocking my path? Myra frowned, glancing down at the villainess with her bright blue eyes. Hey there, She-Hulk. I might be smaller than you, but I'll take you on and show you what I've got in this RV. Go ahead, give it a shot. The villainess let out a low growl, her teeth clenched tight as Bud and Lou quickly jumped up to stand beside her. You really don't deserve to carry Master's mark. You're not as strong as Sister Pamela. The dragon guard just wouldn't budge. It was odd to see her behaving like that. It felt like she had turned into a totally different person, which isn't too surprising given how much she's changed. Hey, come on now. Enough, Naruto growled, a menacing sound that sent Bud and Lou scurrying off to a corner, whimpering in fear. Absolutely, Master, absolutely, Honeybun, they both answered at the same time, but not before shooting a glare at each other. Naruto let out a sigh, putting everything else aside. He suddenly smiled and gave Myra's head a gentle rub, and she responded with a low growl that sounded almost like a cat's purr. Hey there, sweetheart. Harley crossed her arms and stomped her feet, looking just like a kid who didn't get what they wanted. Watching her behave like that, Naruto leaned in for a passionate kiss as she wrapped her arms around his neck, returning the kiss with equal fervor, playfully sucking on his lips while her tongue swirled around the soft flesh. After the kiss, she playfully stuck her tongue out at Myra and gave her the finger, almost as if to say, you can't do this. Myra just pushed Harley aside and leaned in for a kiss with her beloved master, but he stopped her with his hand. It's late. You should grab some clothing. I'll ask Pamela for some, although I doubt it will fit very well anymore. We'll have to make another stop before continuing on the journey, okay? Yes, Master, Myra answered, unhappy that she couldn't get her way. Naruto had to agree that Myra was gorgeous, but like Kurama mentioned, he isn't drawn to her. If anything, it seemed more like she was his daughter, which opened the door to a whole new set of problems. I am an idiot. Say that again. Shut up. I must tell you that dragon birth is different from humans. There's another reason why our entire bodies were treated like a treasure. The dragon explained as Naruto returned to the master bedroom. Why? It takes 6 years at the most for one to be born. Naruto awoke to Myra and Harley bickering, which was quickly interrupted as he approached. Good morning. The two expressed their disapproval at the same time, glaring at one another. Two noisy children, Pamela laughed, placing her arms around Naruto's neck from behind and kissing his cheek. she appeared to view him in a different light after their lengthy conversation. The villainess learnt that their infant would most likely take long to draw their first breath, which terrified her at first, but her boyfriend told her that everything would be alright while they snuggled through the night. It was a pleasant experience for them to converse in bed rather than have sex, which brought her closer to him. Kenneth read, "Sorry, sister." There were two distinct reactions to Pamela's statements. One was quite irritated, while the other felt terrible. "So, she is more expressive," Pamela commented, startled. "It's okay, Myra. Okay, let's have enough playing. Let us go back on the road," Naruto stated severely, and all but one of the females nodded. Raven, hold on, let me mine for a little longer. Why do I need 30 iron nuggets? The half-demon paused as she realized she had been caught playing the game after telling Naruto he couldn't purchase her forgiveness. Her entire face flared up like a crimson light as she turned away from everyone. "Don't look at me," she whispered in an appealing tone as she continued to play with the gaming system. Back in Metropolis, Clark learned about what had transpired and raced to see Lois, who was still in the hospital. "Lois, I arrived as soon as I heard." He rushed to her side as she lay in bed. "You're a bit slow, Clark, but I guess that's better than Superman, who didn't show up at all." The woman rolled her eyes as she took a bite out of the apple that came with her breakfast, which appeared to be the only decent thing on her plate. The hospital cuisine was either hit or miss. How was everything settled? The hero inquired with curiosity. "Well, I got lucky and was saved by Ms. Magic Goth Girl, otherwise I would have gotten worse than a minor concussion." Lois groaned and stroked the bandages around her head. "I was informed that there was an explosion. Were they the ones who halted it? Now that's even more interesting." Clark lifted his eyebrow. "How so?" 3 scientists were saved by a guy in a hooded outfit. However, there were reports of numerous additional girls on the scene. One was undoubtedly the Harley Quinn I'd heard so much about in Gotham. Harley Quinn, yeah, Joker's purported right hand, or ex-right hand. Despite the fact that I have heard she is still with another man. I wonder who. Lois touches her chin with contemplation. "Yeah, I wonder." Clark gritted his teeth. "Clark, I'm about ready to blow this place. Oh, hello." A blonde-haired woman abruptly entered the room. She wore blue trousers, white sneakers, and a pink turtleneck across her body. Lois felt envious and jealous as soon as she saw the woman, despite the fact that the tall woman was carrying certain attributes. However, feeling this way should be considered beneath her. "Who is this?" Lois inquired, clearly annoyed. This is my cousin from my hometown. She came to see me after returning from a business trip." Clark responded. "Hello, my name is Karen Starr. It is good to meet you. I heard a lot about you from my cousin." Kara answered, extending her hand towards Lois. Lois looked at the lady. She was stunning, and Lois felt the same way she does with Clark from the blonde. "She is concealing something," the reporter reflected as she shook her hand. "Damn, she has a powerful grasp." Lois reclined back in her bed, folding her arms. "A business trip, huh? What do you do?" "I am truly an entrepreneur. I am starting my own business." Kara grinned without hesitation. Lois was fascinated. "I'd like to enter the IT market. I've had a couple people put me in touch with credible sources. I believe I can really build something out of this," Kara firmly stated, pumping her fist. She had been studying about life on Earth from her cousin, and with her sharp mind, it took her less than a week to master English. The Kryptonian reasoned that if she became busy, she would forget the sensation she had when that man kissed her. Every now and again, she longs for the feeling again, followed by resentment since she was taken advantage of, and as a result, Kara has learned to despise being looked out by males. That's quite fantastic. Clark, it appears that your cousin has more ambition than you have." Lois grinned. The reporter remained cautious, but the woman clearly earned some points in her book for attempting to be a company owner. "I told her to start out small, but obviously she didn't listen to me." Clark chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. The three would speak for a little longer before being stopped by a nurse who was there to check on Lois. Clark and Kara would exchange goodbyes before leaving the nurse alone with the reporter. "So, "What are you gonna check today?" Lois asked. "Oh, just your vitals and check how that head of yours is healing." The nurse responded with a grin on her gorgeous face. Something about the sneer gave Lois a horrible feeling, but before she could respond, she felt a cold metal knife against her neck. "Talk just when I say it, otherwise you'll know what happens." "Is that clear?" The nurse growled and pressed the knife harder on the reporter's neck, drawing some blood. Lois winced at the mild discomfort, then nodded slowly. "Now, tell me everything you know about the incident a couple of days ago. If it's not satisfactory, then you know what happens." In a weird underground facility, a group of scientists worked on their first significant project in a long time. The facility has always been used secretly to manufacture weapons to fight the Boy Scout Superman, led by Lex Luthor. However, they were now working on something far greater, something that would alter the world as we know it. The workers were aware that what they were doing was very unlawful, yet they continued in the sake of science, despite the fact that they were under their boss's thumb. In one of the deepest sections, the scientist was working around the clock near a human-sized tube loaded with an unusual blend of liquid substances to assist what appeared to be a human embryo. The status of the clone is doing quite well. We are tiptoeing a bit as the technology is still quite new, but at this rate, we could have a fully grown clone in a matter of few short weeks. A scientist explained to a balding man in a black suit. Not good enough. I need it sooner rather than later." The man spoke calmly. The scientist trembled, clutching the clipboard in his palm. "With all due respect, Mr. Luthor. We could very well create something unlike what is intended if we speed up the process." The guy took a hesitant step forward and stared squarely into the scientist's icy, piercing green eyes. "Do it, or I'll hire someone else to do it, Dr. Moyers. Trust me when I say this. You don't want me to replace you." "Why, yes. I will hurry," Dr. Moyers mumbled out before fleeing to join the other employees. "You are going to be the beginning of it all. Finally, one of Earth's greatest heroes will face their exact match." Before leaving the area, the man twisted his lips into a half-smile. He is subsequently joined by another man dressed in unusual garb for an American, complete with a green cloak over his back. Lex narrowed his eyes. "Ah, Roz. It was quite good of you to pay me an unexpected visit." He frowned. The guy known as Roz Al Ghul would merely chuckle, delighted by Lex's dissatisfaction. "Your front door was open, so I thought I would check in. You have a lovely thing going on here." "I don't need you to tell me that," Lex complained as he moved by him. "Shouldn't you do something? I suppose it was true what the witch boy said about you becoming free." Roz scowled at the mention of that child, but he didn't let it bother him because he came down here for a reason. "I came down here for a specific reason. You could have come into my office, and my secretary would have buzzed you in. If you scheduled an appointment beforehand." Lex grinned as he entered an elevator with the villain. "I need your expertise for a peculiar thing I found in one of my expeditions. My daughter is on her way here to Washington with the item." Lex brushes his chin. "Interesting. Something the mighty demon head cannot crack. Give me additional information." During that day, Naruto stopped at a clothing store to acquire Myra some better-fitting clothes. Myra received a lot of glances from men and women alike when they arrived because of her size, but no one could dispute that she was still beautiful. Many of the items were too tight for her, so she purchased a couple clothing sets from the men's area. Watching all of this, Naruto began to think that it would be nice to have someone manufacture custom outfits for them. Perhaps he might consider recruiting members for their squad. He refers to it as a team, yet an external observer would likely conclude that does not constitute a team. That is a harem. Naruto neither fully denies nor admits it, as he still experiences a degree of embarrassment regarding the matter. However, he would not alter it for anything, particularly now that Raven is involved. The young half-dragon was already occupied with his two companions, yet the ambition to acquire the Raven intensified even further. Raven occasionally sensed his gaze upon her, and she found herself somewhat affected by it. A man was drawn to her despite her background and the imminent danger surrounding them. She recognized that his interest extended beyond mere physical attraction. He sought the entirety of what she had to offer. Her demon half appeared to be responding more intensely, as she sensed it attempting to emerge more frequently than before. It is essential to maintain focus on your objective. As Raven walked back to the RV, she contemplated the importance of keeping her mind engaged with gaming. While shopping, a brown-haired man in business casual attire gathered his courage to approach the tall woman with a job opportunity. "I must express that I have not encountered anyone quite like you. Your beauty has the potential to excel in the modeling industry, and I would be honored to serve as your manager." The man smiled, presenting his most polished smile. "Will this be beneficial, Master?" Myra inquired. "Master, what is your role as a maid?" he inquired with a nuanced expression on his face. "A housekeeper. I am uncertain about what that entails, but my commitment is exclusively to him, and I aspire to be by his side for the entirety of my life." She smiled, placing a hand over her chest in a poised manner. "He must be fortunate." The man exhaled deeply, running his fingers through his hair thoughtfully. "I believe it would be appropriate to seek permission from her master." "That is quite unusual. Could you please share the identity of your master?" he inquired. Myra promptly turned around. "Master," she called out, raising her hand to capture everyone's attention towards the man who was accompanied by Harley, who promptly expressed his displeasure at her voice. "You may choose to disregard her. Master, please come over here. I am reaching out to you." Myra persisted in her vocalizations until Naruto approached with a bemused expression. "Yes," Naruto responded. "Greetings, I am Mark. I am affiliated with the FML agency, where I specialize in talent scouting. I encountered this impressive individual and am considering the possibility of her auditioning as one of our models." Mark provided an explanation as he presented his business card. "AN. It signifies a commitment to a lifelong career in modeling. I assure you, this is not a plea for assistance. Would you like to consider it? While I have your attention, I would like to extend an invitation to you as well," the recruiter stated. "While it is appealing, I must decline." Naruto declined with a shake of his head. "I have more pressing matters to attend to." Mark began to feel anxious. Please wait. I assure you that collaborating with us will be a decision you will appreciate, and I can confidently say that you will achieve recognition swiftly." "He has already declined. Are you unable to listen?" Harley frowned, causing him to feel a sense of unease. "I currently do not require that." Naruto exhaled deeply, returning the card, but the man intervened to halt his action. "Oh, if you reconsider, please feel free to reach out to me using the provided number. I assure you, you will not regret this decision." Mark was adamant. Naruto paused thoughtfully before responding. "I propose this. If you can connect me with a skilled clothing designer, I might be willing to reconsider my position." Mark expressed his excitement. "Really? Wow, that's excessively Naruto raised his hand. "No, not an individual from your agency. I require an individual who excels in their field, and I am prepared to invest significantly for their expertise." "That is unfortunate." Mark exhaled deeply, allowing his shoulders to slump in resignation. "I'm currently facing a challenging situation. If I am unable to secure some talent, there is a possibility that the agency may terminate my employment. I was informed that I have until the end of this month. A reminder for myself. It is unwise to pursue a relationship with my boss's daughter, regardless of her appealing attributes. Now, the question is, who can I find?" After a brief pause, Mark finally responded, "If you provide me with no. In 1 week, I believe I can identify someone to assist you. I believe that meets the necessary standards. How may I address you?" Mark inquired with interest, retrieving a piece of paper and a pen from his messenger bag. "I am known as Naruto, and this is Myra, and Harley." The antagonist interjected, her cheeks inflated in a dramatic display. "Am I not suitable enough to be considered for scouting?" she silently inquired of Naruto while gazing at him with pleading eyes. "There is no need to induce guilt in order to acknowledge your beauty," he responded as he softly kissed her lips. The antagonist playfully extended her tongue before leaping into his arms, allowing herself to be carried with an air of regality. "I believe we have concluded our discussion. Let's proceed." After Naruto provided Mark with the necessary information, he would proceed to settle the expenses and continue on his journey. Now, I will attempt to persuade the elderly woman. She is likely to assist me if she understands that my livelihood is at risk, correct? I am quite frustrated. Was the experience truly worthwhile, Mark? Was it so? Indeed, it is certainly worthwhile. Mark acknowledged with a nod before retrieving his phone to initiate several calls. The team resumed their journey with Harley in the driver's seat. What prompted you to engage with that individual? What motivated you to arrange a meeting with a clothing designer? The villainess inquired of Naruto as he rose to his feet behind her. My previous uniform was damaged in the explosion, and I would appreciate a replacement if possible, Naruto stated, kissing her cheek. That uniform was presented to you as a gift. You have compromised the situation through your lack of judgment, Kurama asserted internally. And I am still reflecting on that, to some extent. I am feeling quite frustrated. Honeybun is a male model. I believe it would be quite challenging to endure. I prefer that others do not observe your body. Harley expressed her displeasure with a noticeable frown. Consider this perspective. They can observe, but they cannot engage, Pamela remarked with a light chuckle as she flipped through a magazine in the lounge area next to Myra, who was utilizing the laptop she had recently learned to operate. The Dragon Guard utilized the search engine to research maids, prompted by her curiosity when Mark mentioned the topic. I understand now. I believe I have seen these in certain films. However, I do not recall their dresses being quite so short. Moving forward, we anticipate arriving in Washington, D.C. in less than a day. Naruto took a seat on the couch next to Pamela, who promptly rested her head on his lap, using him as a pillow while she continued her reading. What is your opinion on these garments? I believe they would be quite charming for a young girl. Pamela smiled as she presented the page she was examining. What has prompted your interest in baby clothing? Are you currently expecting a child? Harley responded assertively. Pamela responded in a straightforward manner. Harley nodded. Oh, that's good. What just happened? The villainess promptly activated the autopilot feature and swiftly rose from the driver's seat to address the redhead. You are not being truthful. I hope this isn't true. Naruto, assert that she is not being truthful. Harley shouted, shaking his shoulder with considerable intensity while offering a wry smile. She is being truthful, he responded. It appears you are lagging behind, which positions me to take the lead, Pamela remarked with a confident smile as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's waist. No, several hours have elapsed since the others became aware of Pamela's pregnancy. Myra expressed enthusiasm, while Raven remained indifferent due to her prior knowledge, and Harley made multiple attempts to remove Naruto's pants while he focused on his cultivation. She was resolute in her decision to have his child, to the extent that she was prepared to act in front of an audience. However, there came a point when Pamela made the decision to secure her with the vines from the plants in the RV, allowing Naruto to concentrate on overcoming the threshold to the third stage. Kurama was eager as he was ready to instruct Naruto in the most effective spells. Please allow me to proceed. I will no longer take any action. Harley made her appeal, fully aware of the deception involved. I need to use the restroom. Here you go, Pamela stated as she positioned a bucket beneath her. Harley began to fidget. You are truly unhinged. I believe it is inappropriate for you to refer to me in that manner. The redhead chuckled with a hint of intensity as she turned to take a seat on the couch, where she began to peruse her magazines. As nightfall approached, they opted to relocate to another truck stop that was relatively vacant for the evening, having obtained the necessary permission. As the situation began to settle in preparation for sleep, Harley attempted to persuade Naruto to join her in bed. However, he declined, choosing instead to continue his cultivation, feeling that he was nearing a significant breakthrough. He would proceed to the roof to join Raven during her nightly meditations, which served as her alternative to sleep. Naruto had engaged in cultivation near the half-demon while she was meditating on several occasions, and he found that the energy flowed within him more effortlessly during those moments in her presence. Upon approaching her, he observed that Raven's forehead was glistening with sweat, and she was gritting her teeth, suggesting she was enduring significant discomfort. Azeroth, M. Metrian Zinthos. Her voice appeared somewhat faint, prompting Naruto to express concern for her well-being. "Refrain from doing that, please give me some space." She expressed her frustration quietly as she began to undergo several changes. Her original skin began to take on a crimson hue as horns emerged atop her head, accompanied by the appearance of 2 additional eyes on her face. "Raven, Raven, submit to Raven, please approach me." The half-demon would perceive a recognizable voice within her mind, one she wished to avoid for the remainder of her life. There are instances when the owner of the voice attempts to reach out to her, resulting in her demon half becoming somewhat unstable. She should concentrate and engage in meditation for the remainder of the evening. "I likely appear unappealing to him, why does it even matter to me?" She maintained a serious expression as she continued to chant. "I perceive an additional presence in her vicinity," Kurama stated. "Trigon." Naruto contemplated before he abruptly turned, his eyes flashing red as he directed a fierce glare towards a specific location. A young boy in a suit emerged unexpectedly, a sizable orange cat draped around his neck. "And here I thought I was being sneaky," he remarked. "However, I suppose this approach is more enjoyable, wouldn't you agree, Tikal? I expected Goldman to provide the best resources to fulfill my requirements, but the delay has been considerable, and I find myself feeling unengaged. Would you be agreeable to this?" The young man with jet black hair, styled to resemble horns, began to smile as red flames surrounded his hands. "Clarion." Naruto emitted a low growl, his gaze fixed on the boy with intensity. Naruto was well aware of this boy who exhibited minimal changes over the years, yet he consistently engaged in chaos and mischief, often for the sheer enjoyment of it. Clarion appeared taken aback for a brief moment before erupting into maniacal laughter. "Whoa. It appears that someone is familiar with me. I am well known, Tikal. I am well known," he exclaimed as his feline companion groomed its paws. "Master." Naruto, Deer, Myra, Pamela, and Harley promptly exited the RV upon sensing Naruto's anger, sharing a similar sentiment towards the individual responsible for provoking such a reaction. "It appears that my name has been recorded incorrectly. It is Clarion Bum Bum Boom, the Lord of Chaos." The antagonist smiled knowingly. "I believe there may be an issue with that statement. Naruto, you must either find a way to evade or take decisive action. There is no middle ground for an individual like him." "I can discern that," Kurama stated. Naruto promptly nodded and swiftly vanished from his location. "Impressive. Quick," Clarion exclaimed, narrowly avoiding a punch to the face through teleportation. With each attempt to strike, the villain effortlessly teleported away, evading the attacks while laughing, convinced he was enjoying himself. "If you miss me, now is the time to act." Clarion pauses briefly. "You know, that's not quite right. I am reserving my affection for someone who truly deserves it." He smiled confidently. Naruto was uncertain of the reason, yet the moment he heard those words, he came to an abrupt halt. It is highly unlikely that he possesses that knowledge. "I perceive a great deal with my vision. We are not so dissimilar, you and," Clarion articulated in a profound, theatrical tone. "I would appreciate it if you could refrain from speaking. You disrupted my rest," Harley called out, rushing towards him while wielding her bat. Clarion scowled and began launching fire at Harley as if they were baseballs. "Be quiet. The key stakeholders are engaged in discussion." Naruto was poised to take action to safeguard her, yet she seemed to possess an awareness of his intent. "Do not direct your attention towards me. I have reached a new level of maturity. I am unsure of the actions that led to your frustration with this individual, but I am prepared to assist in addressing the situation." She internally noted as she skillfully evaded while striking the ones she couldn't with a bat in a composed manner. "We are not damsels in distress." Pamela internally communicated with him while simultaneously summoning the plants beneath the surface to emerge and ensnare Clarion with their vines, aiming to restrain him. Myra would engage in the conflict without hesitation, attempting to draw the antagonist into a physical confrontation as each of her strikes sliced through the air. "Is it 4 against 1? Clarion responded with a low growl, effectively deflecting Myra's punches using a shield composed of energy. "That is not equitable, Tikal." Shortly thereafter, The feline perched on his shoulder leapt down and began to transform into a creature resembling a hybrid of a domestic cat and a saber-toothed tiger, emitting a powerful roar towards the sky. Observing the situation unfold brought a sense of satisfaction, as he watched them position themselves to confront the impending threat. He typically believed that he should resolve all conflicts, but that was not the reality. These women were not mere trophies positioned behind their partner. They were steadfast companions who would stand by his side through any adversity. While Clarion was engaged with the three, Naruto smiled as he recalled the significant vulnerability of the villain. Clarion presented significant challenges, yet targeting or eliminating his familiar would sever his connection to the world. Naruto vanished and reappeared next to Tikal, who was engaged in a confrontation with Harley, who was skillfully keeping her at a distance with her bat. Regrettably, the bat is unlikely to endure such treatment for an extended period. Upon reaching the cat, he would effortlessly grasp the back of its neck and elevate it as if it were a small kitten. The cat struggled intensely, yet it was unable to escape the firm hold of Naruto. Upon realizing it was trapped, Tikal reverted to its original form and emitted a meow, which startled Clarion. Tikal, the antagonist, let out a piercing cry as he prepared to teleport to Naruto's location in an effort to rescue him. "Remain in your position," Naruto commanded, his left hand transforming into claws as he pressed it firmly against the familiar's neck. Clarion expressed his frustration by stomping his feet, exclaiming that it was unjust. "Your tactics are questionable. Please inform me of your purpose for being here at your earliest convenience," he requested. "Is that a threat to the cat, Honeybun? That seems quite severe." Harley displayed a confident smirk as Pamela employed her vines to secure Clarion, a gesture that seemed largely ceremonial given his ability to teleport. Nevertheless, it would prompt him to consider his circumstances more thoughtfully. Naruto applied pressure with his claws against Tikal's neck, stating, "Provide me with the information immediately or face the consequence of losing your connection to this world." "Understood. Understood. Unfortunately, this is frustrating. I should have anticipated this situation." The antagonist let out a groan as Myra effortlessly lifted him with ease. "Curses. This outcome was unforeseen. I will not be able to participate in the game. I must say, your intellect is truly remarkable." The antagonist contemplated as he noticed a shadow shift in his peripheral vision. "I arrived due to a lack of engagement," he responded with an unsettling smile. "That is unappealing. That is quite amusing." Harley was laughing until Pamela struck her on the head. "Immature," the individual with red hair stated. "That may explain why you have not conceived yet." "What is this?" "I understand, that is reasonable. However, I will continue to express my offense." Harley approached Naruto with a frown, crossing her arms and resting her face against his left arm. Naruto was nearing the limits of his patience and was on the verge of concluding matters when a thought suddenly occurred to him. "Patience is required, Raven." He glanced over his shoulder, but the half-demon was absent from view. "I see that you have observed, indeed," Clarion inquired, displaying a disconcerting, toothy smile. "It is important to remain attentive, yet one cannot overlook the outcomes of shortcomings." "Amusing. I have a proposal for you. Please release Tikal for your friend and accompany me." "Colleague, Raven," Pamela asserted her dominance, constricting the vines around the villain. "What actions have you taken regarding Raven?" "That was quite amusing. These are somewhat tighter than I prefer." Clarion teleported away, liberating himself from the vines and from Myra with a chuckle. "That is quite surprising." "Halt," Naruto instructed before the two made another attempt to capture. "I initially anticipated this would be a straightforward challenge. I currently lack the necessary strength." Clarion pales in comparison to Trigon. "But what is his motivation for wanting me? I advise against proceeding with this deal. His demeanor is reminiscent of the Joker, and I have concerns about his reliability." Harley interjected, wrapping her arms around his left arm. Naruto expressed concern. "Where is she?" "She is comfortable and warm. Rest assured. Power generator. I mean, yes, that's precisely what I mean. Hee hee." Clarion chuckled softly, applauding lightly. "I was looking forward to an extended play session, but then you resorted to unfair tactics. Please make your decision promptly. I have limited time available. Or perhaps I should refer to it as evening. Individuals like him are quite susceptible to manipulation. Unacceptable. I am quite frustrated with you. Any intentions he has towards you are likely not positive. You cannot simply discard everything you have worked for on behalf of someone who is not even your partner. Eliminate him and conclude the matter. Kurama expressed his fury internally. I am unable to, I cannot, in good conscience, overlook this matter. I find it difficult to forgive myself, particularly since I had already committed to assisting her. I am well aware of Clarion's tendencies. He will go to great lengths to achieve his objectives. Naruto paused briefly, locking eyes with the villain before pressing his claws firmly against Tikel's neck once more. Hello, are you not aware that Raven is in my possession? I will eliminate her with a mere gesture. This individual is being dishonest. He emitted a low growl, channeling his draconic essence until a golden aura enveloped both himself and the feline familiar. Tikel began to howl intensely and writhed as if its very existence was at stake, as excruciating pain coursed through its body. Please halt. Absolutely not. Tikel, what are you currently engaged in? Clarion let out a sharp cry as he tugged at his hair. Soon after, he began to experience a pushing sensation, coinciding with his body fading in and out, reminiscent of a malfunctioning computer game. Naruto, can we discuss Raven? Pamela inquired with urgency while placing a hand on his shoulder. He was not being truthful. Naruto frowned. He was not involved in Raven's disappearance. He would then fixate on the villain as he crawled towards him. Please, cease all actions immediately. What you are currently engaged in. I am prepared to offer you whatever you need. Strength. Funds. I am willing to offer my collection of rare Pokemon cards. I find myself feeling fatigued by your presence. Naruto glanced at the howling cat and conceived an innovative idea. I would like to propose the establishment of a contract between us. Should I consider ending my association with this individual? He inquired. You wouldn't. You would not take such a risk. Naruto smiled with intent. I have always wanted a cat, he remarked, retracting his right foot while maintaining eye contact with Clarion. A powerful kick struck the villain's face, propelling him across the concrete parking lot with sufficient force to fracture the solid surface. The location they occupied was rather isolated, however, it is likely that the noise had reached the ears of others by this point. Shortly thereafter, Naruto sensed a distinct form of energy attempting to enter his body. This energy was faint and conveyed a sense of submission, which he deduced was associated with Tikel. Upon accepting the energy, he ceased the circulation of his essence, exposing a cat that appeared as though it had just emerged from a fire, with smoke wafting off its body. Tikel coughed softly before gazing at Naruto with appreciative eyes while cradling the cat in his arms. Clarion sprang up from the ground and pointed at Naruto with intensity. You bastard. You have made a significant error. When you discover a method to return, I will have eliminated you. I currently lack the strength to confront deities. Naruto stated. Clarion, consumed by anger and regret, vanished from the area, retreating to his origin. The individuals behind him will only realize much later that he was no longer present, complicating their future plans. It may not hold them back for an extended period, but it would certainly pique their curiosity regarding the individual capable of overcoming him. Harley expressed, the situation with that individual has been resolved for the time being, but what are we to do about Rave? Where has she gone? Naruto looked down at the cat. Tikel, I understand that you are in the process of recovery, but would you be able to assist us? Tikel nodded with hesitation as Naruto began to experience an unusual poking sensation in his mind. She is not too far from here, Master. However, she is progressing at a rapid pace. Please expedite your actions before she exits my range. Tikel, speaking with the voice of a young boy, communicated within Naruto's mind. Please indicate the location. Please enter the RV and make an effort to maintain pace with my location. Naruto exclaimed as the ground beneath him fractured, propelling him forward in the direction indicated by Tikel. Affirmative. Exceeding the speed limit once more. Harley expressed enthusiasm as he swiftly returned to the RV, with Pamela following closely behind. Myra, on the other hand, would pursue Naruto on foot, as she was able to maintain a comparable pace with him. Naruto swiftly located a small forested area just a few miles from the truck stop parking lot, which was in disarray following their brief encounter with Clarion. While navigating through the forest, he observed several damaged trees, some appearing to be cleanly severed. The extent of the destruction appeared to intensify as he continued his journey. After a few minutes, Naruto observed Raven, who was intensely attempting to meditate while tentacles composed of dark energy emerged from beneath her cloak, wreaking havoc on everything in their path. "Raven," Naruto exclaimed as he accelerated his speed. Kurama began to communicate internally, "She is losing control. You must." "No, I will not take the life of an innocent individual again." Naruto interrupted Kurama before he had the opportunity to respond. Raven clenched her jaw as she battled against her demon half, "Stay away." She was uncertain as to why she was experiencing difficulty maintaining confidentiality at this moment. Was it due to Naruto? Could it be that my recent decline in meditation practice is the cause? "Raven, please allow me to assist you," he called out as he moved closer. "You are unable to assist yourself. Please allow me some space." Immediately after she completed her statement, the tentacles struck at Naruto, compelling him to evade the attack. "This situation is a result of your actions. I should have maintained my caution around you. I should have never allowed you to do that." Her thoughts were increasingly disordered as she approached Naruto to launch another attack. Naruto, prioritizing the well-being of the half-demon, dedicated his efforts to evading attacks, a task that proved challenging for Raven to match due to Naruto's remarkable speed. "I would appreciate some space, thank you. I no longer require your assistance." Raven exerted her mystical powers, enveloping several trees in dark energy before uprooting them and swiftly hurling them at Naruto like javelins. Myra would soon arrive and promptly initiated an offensive maneuver, seizing two of the massive trees mid-air to launch them back at Raven, who skillfully sliced them apart with her tentacles. "I apologize," Naruto reflected as he gently placed Tikal on the ground. "To whom are you extending your apologies?" Kurama exclaimed. "I commend myself for this idea. I will reflect on my choices later regarding the appropriateness of this Disney-inspired endeavor." He responded promptly as he swiftly entered Raven's personal space. "Excuse me." Raven attempted to retreat, but she then felt a firm grip on her waist by an individual. She observed Naruto as his face approached hers, his eyes gently closed. "Wait a moment, no." Soon, the only thing Raven could focus on was the warmth of Naruto's lips pressed firmly against hers as he kissed her with passion. Her emotions were fluctuating, oscillating between anger and happiness as she struggled to determine which one to embrace. As Raven's demon half began to visibly subside, everything around her appeared to slow down, and her body gradually returned to its original state. She was uncertain of the moment it occurred, but ultimately, her arms encircled Naruto's neck, drawing him nearer as her body trembled, experiencing an unfamiliar, electrifying sensation coursing through her nerves. "What is this? What is the purpose of my actions? Kindly cease. The temperature is excessive." Her mind longed for it to conclude, yet her lips were eagerly engaging with his as if they were the most exquisite sensation she had ever experienced. Gradually, her body began to unwind, appreciating the firm hold that kept her close, ultimately resulting in a soft groan escaping into his lips. "I feel a sense of envy," Myra observed intently as her gaze remained fixed on the two. Throughout this experience, Naruto experienced a sensation reminiscent of being in oppressive heat, as beads of sweat began to trickle down his forehead. Upon kissing Raven in her demon state, he immediately sensed an energy that posed a risk of overwhelming him. He asserted that he could hear something shouting, "Let go of my daughter, release." Nevertheless, the desire to persist grew stronger despite the discomfort, and moments later, he concluded that the voice likely originated from Trigon. After what seemed like an extended moment, the two would part to catch their breath, gazing into each other's eyes with a sense of wonder. Raven was poised to initiate another kiss when she suddenly heard a scream in the distance. "Absolutely not. You are not having a third one," Harley called out as she hurried towards their location alongside Pamela. Upon hearing this, Raven's face turned a deep shade of red as she exclaimed, Azerith Metronzinthos. She quickly exclaimed as Naruto's entire body became enveloped in dark energy, and before he could respond, he was propelled into the distance, colliding with several trees. The final hours of the night were tranquil as they opted to proceed towards Washington, D.C. while remaining alert. Raven was positioned in the corner of the lounge area, while Harley took a seat beside Naruto on the couch. Typically, she would assume the role of the driver, however, on this occasion, it was Pamela's responsibility. The redhead was already aware of Naruto's feelings for Raven, and he fulfilled his promise to inform her a few days prior. He attempted to communicate with Harley, but she was unresponsive. Harley directed a stern look at Naruto, stating, "I am upset with you." She communicated to him in her thoughts. "I am also disappointed in myself." Naruto responded with a sigh. Are you upset?" Harley grasped his collar firmly. "You assured me that you would inform me?" "I did. On several occasions, however, it seemed that you disregarded my comments entirely." "Dear Honeyboon, I was surprised that you decided to pursue it." She positioned herself in his lap, adopting a pout before commencing a display of tears that appeared insincere. "Harley? Certainly, OWW." Harley exclaimed as Naruto flicked her forehead, prompting her to cover the impacted area with her hand. "I would prefer to have a date before considering this matter further. I allowed leniency previously, but I am now asserting my expectations." "What is this now? I am feeling overwhelmed and in need of support. I acknowledge that I made an error." Kurama exhaled deeply. "I was indeed perceiving accurately. Another individual is currently utilizing the same link," Tikal responded. "I arrived before anyone else. If this situation is causing you discomfort, you are welcome to exit politely," Kurama stated. "If you were not attentive, you would understand that I am unable to continue. I am currently under contract with him unless he terminates it or is deceased. I find myself missing my previous master. He consistently provided treats." Tikal expressed dissatisfaction. "Cease utilizing my mind as a medium for discussion," Naruto exclaimed. "Yes, understood." Tikal responded as it located a suitable area to unwind while grooming its paws. The cat had largely recovered from earlier, but his body exhibited some changes. His once red eyes had transformed to a golden hue, and a small patch of fur on his head displayed a dragon insignia. "Could you please reiterate what you mentioned earlier?" Kurama issued a warning with a low growl. "I requested that you cease utilizing my thoughts for our discussions, you oversized dragon." "I apologize, could you please repeat that? I did not catch that. Could you please repeat it?" Shortly thereafter, Naruto found it difficult to recall much after they discovered a largely vacant parking lot in front of a sizable convenience store, where they decided to take a break until noon. At this moment, an individual was contemplating the challenging inquiries. "If I allow Trigon to enter, he will simply eliminate everything, correct? No one will be aware of the events that transpired if I proceed with that, correct?" Raven contemplated while she securely adjusted her hood to conceal her flushed complexion. "Is that correct?" The morning arrived promptly, and Naruto rose early to begin his cultivation, sensing that he was on the brink of achieving the third stage. Upon beginning his cultivation, he immediately sensed an enhanced quality of energy in the air at this location. Naruto had several concepts, considering the numerous hidden elements and activities occurring in Washington, D.C. After a few hours, he sensed a pronounced clicking noise resonating within his mind. He would then exit the RV at his maximum speed, almost creating afterimages in his wake. With no wilderness visible, he opted for the next best alternative: the tallest building in Washington, D.C. The subtle shadow ascends towards its pinnacle, unnoticed by all. Naruto would grasp it with one hand while tilting his head towards the clear blue sky. He emitted a roar that was unprecedented, awakening and alarming all those present in the city. The volume reached such an intensity that individuals had to shield their ears while the ground trembled beneath them. What was happening here? The day commenced like any other in Washington, D.C., with residents preparing for their usual weekly routines. The nation's capital is a bustling hub where numerous influential individuals reside, alongside the Hall of Justice, the official headquarters of the Justice League. The location has seen reduced usage since the establishment of the Watchtower, yet it serves as a venue for members to formally engage with the public. Additionally, it functions as a residence for heroes who may not have a permanent home of their own. Within the training facility, a woman with blonde hair and blue eyes was engaged in combat with a man possessing brown hair and brown eyes. Both individuals exhibited remarkable physical condition, and their combat style resembled a scene from a martial arts film. The woman exhibited agility, evading each strike from the man with finesse before countering. However, the man remained unfazed, possessing the physique of a seasoned bodybuilder. "Your strikes lack impact, Don." The individual raised his voice as he escalated his aggression, seizing the woman by her left arm, poised to propel her across the room. "It appears that you may not be demonstrating the level of intelligence expected, Hank," she responded assertively, propelling herself from her feet to deliver a knee strike to the man's face with her left knee, disrupting his balance. He maintained his grip on her arm. However, she intended to leverage this situation to her benefit. She positioned herself closely to his right side, employing her strength to unbalance him further as her right leg swept behind his right leg, compelling him to lose his footing while simultaneously guiding him downward. The man fell heavily onto his back, emitting a painful groan. However, he maintained his grip on her arm. "It was squandered on my good Lou." The conflict was interrupted by a deafening and ominous noise, one that instilled a sense of unease as the earth trembled beneath them. The two promptly distanced themselves from one another while exchanging phrases they had articulated numerous times before. Soon, the two were enveloped by a bright light as their bodies were adorned in distinctive suits that set them apart from the other heroes. The individual referred to as Hank donned a suit in red and black, complemented by a mask inspired by a hawk. The man's physique was prominently displayed in the skin-tight suit, highlighting the impressive definition of his muscles. He possessed 4 unusual tendrils originating from his shoulders, 2 on each side, which appeared to defy the laws of physics as they extended straight upward and then curved downward, resembling wings. The woman, in contrast, exhibited a less oppressive demeanor. However, her trained muscles were still visible through her blue and white skin-tight suit. Her formerly blonde hair transformed into a striking snow white, complemented by a mask resembling goggles that adorned her face, while a small white cape elegantly draped over her shoulders. Upon their transformation, they promptly exited the building. Dove ascended into the sky, grasping Hawk by the hands and elevating him as they journeyed towards the source of the noise. "What is your perspective on this?" Dove inquired with curiosity. "If it is a significant challenge, I would appreciate the opportunity to evaluate how it measures up to my capabilities." Hawk responded with a chuckle. As the two ascended through the air, they observed vehicles coming to a halt and individuals in a state of panic as chaos unfolded in their surroundings. Fortunately, it was brief, and once it ceased, the individuals were overcome with a mix of relief and apprehension. Dove observed a small shadow atop the Washington Monument and descended towards it, aiming to gain an advantage. Current moment Naruto experienced a profound sense of achievement upon reaching the 3rd stage, as his body was infused with an unprecedented level of strength. He should expedite his departure from the area, yet he currently feels as though he is experiencing an elevated state. Does this experience reflect the sensation of having power? He contemplated as he observed the radiant ascending sun with his luminous red eyes. While he enjoyed the newfound power, he sensed a loss of something valuable. However, this feeling was fleeting as his heightened senses detected several individuals approaching his location. Naruto observed 2 individuals approaching his location and immediately deduced that they were likely heroes. Nevertheless, he could not recall the identities of the 2 individuals, despite their vividly colored suits. In the back of his mind, he had the intention to confront both of them and was in the midst of a jump before being halted by the voices of his 2 companions. It appears that their mental connection has intensified, as he recalled that he could only hear them when he was in close proximity. For the first time, he was able to hear Myra in his mind, which was peculiar considering he had not experienced this ability until now. With a composed mindset, he opted to retreat to the RV, departing the area more swiftly than he had arrived, leaving the 2 heroes behind in his wake. Naruto may not have the speed of the Flash, yet he believed he could surpass a Formula 1 car if he truly applied himself. "That was not a monster," Dove remarked as she scarcely caught sight of the man before he disappeared from view. Hawk clenched his jaw in frustration. "Did we transform for nothing?" I was anticipating a confrontation. This may be the most advantageous outcome. I sensed a potential threat from that individual. He was not even directing his attention towards us, yet I sensed that if we approached any nearer, we would have faced dire consequences. What information do you possess? I had the capability to subdue him. He emitted a low growl. Hawk, I would appreciate it if you could temper your approach today. We typically do not engage in sparring. You are correct. It seems as though, is there a shift in balance? Indeed, that is the term. Let us return to the previous topic. Perhaps that cyborg will engage in combat with me next. Dove expressed her disbelief. Are you referring to cyborg? Pamela was among the first to greet Naruto, as she expressed the greatest concern for his well-being. He promptly reassured the redhead with a deep, passionate kiss, eliciting a soft groan from her before the door to the RV closed. The villainess intended to pose several inquiries, however, the intensity of his desire, coupled with the sensation of his lips, rendered her thoughts momentarily vacant. Naruto's stop, she mentally pleaded as she reciprocated the kiss with equal fervor, suggesting a desire that contradicted her words. To her mild dissatisfaction, he would soon part from her bittersweet lips. Could you please explain what occurred? Pamela inquired after taking a moment to compose herself. She was still experiencing some warmth, but her mind was sufficiently clear for her to pose another question. I have successfully advanced beyond the third stage. I chose not to disturb anyone, so I departed quietly. Naruto provided a response. Your performance was exceptional. Harley approached him with a smirk on her strikingly attractive face, expressing her disdain. Naruto was uncertain of the reason, yet he found that his companions appeared even more striking to him. Is there an issue with my vision? He observed the approaching villainess with a smile as she yawned and stretched her limbs, his gaze attentively tracing every detail of her figure in her nightgown. You are staring. Harley smiled broadly before gently holding his face and sharing a kiss that was quite passionate. Myra observed, contemplating the expression of affection towards her master, though she was not alone in her sentiments. Raven stood at the back, a subtle flush of red gracing her cheeks as she gently touched her lips, recalling the events of the previous night. Naruto. Master. I also share that sentiment. Myra could no longer contain herself and quickly approached them, intending to express her affection for her master with a kiss. Regrettably, prior to her approach, she was halted by a hand
Thank you for
from
watching
Naruto.
this amazing video.
Let us strategize
If you
our
enjoyed
next
it,
course of
please
action.
consider liking and
He remarked
subscribing to
after
my channel for
distancing
more
himself
content.
from the somewhat bewildered Harley,
look forward
who
to seeing you in
sensuously
the
licked
next
her
video.
lips. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Raven observing him with an almost trance-like focus. When he smiled at the half-demon, she reacted with a slight jump. Yes. Let us. Raven positioned her hood to obscure her face before taking a seat on the couch beside Tikal, who was comfortably reclining. Exasperation. Please organize your efforts. That was merely an isolated incident. You do not have romantic feelings for him. You are not. She was drawn from her thoughts by the sensation of someone observing her and looked up to find Naruto, his red eyes flashing momentarily. What is happening? Will you be sharing the plan with us? I am unable to develop the plan without your guidance on the source of energy. He smiled, positioning his hands on the couch, effectively enclosing her within their reach. Isn't that cat available to assist you now? Naruto expressed, no. I require your assistance. Excuse me. Raven was aware that it wasn't what he intended, yet she could sense the heat rising in her cheeks as she pressed her lower lip between her teeth. Her heart began to race, feeling as though it might escape from her chest. I would appreciate it if you could take care of that. What was your thought process regarding this? He inquired with a light-hearted laugh. This individual. He intentionally did that. Raven clenched her jaw as her hands began to emit a dark glow. Before she could articulate her first word, her lips were sealed by another, which was immediately recognized as the one she had become acquainted with the previous night. She was reluctant to acknowledge it, yet she longed for the taste and sensation of his lips. The sensation was akin to embracing a warm, comforting fire that radiated its warmth throughout her body. Certainly, the fire blazed, yet it appeared to ease her muscles, calming her thoughts as the desire to draw nearer intensified. And not. In front of him. Raven sighed softly against his lips, her cheeks flushing deeper as Naruto gently lowered her hood. Pamela and Harley observed with astonishment as they began to notice a change in their friend. They could not have anticipated that he would act in this manner towards someone who was not even marked by him, and that it would occur right before their eyes. He consistently presented himself as reserved and only felt at ease in the company of familiar individuals. It wasn't merely his shyness, rather, it appeared that he was not sufficiently forthcoming, as if he were concealing something. Once the two finally separated, Raven was left nearly seeing stars as her chest rose and fell rapidly from heavy breathing. She was unaware of when it happened, but her hands had instinctively moved to his face, gently cupping it as if seeking to draw him nearer. Unprofessional, inappropriate, disgraceful. She criticized him as she regained a measure of clarity, regarding him with a complex expression. Raven. Naruto spoke in a hushed tone, his voice carrying a low intensity. Become my partner. Excuse me. Just when she believed she was regaining her composure, she was struck by those words that rendered her momentarily breathless. I am unable to proceed at this time, she stated, averting her gaze from him. Please remain composed. This action is not yet feasible. Oh, I'm ready, Myra suddenly exclaimed before Pamela covered her mouth. Nevertheless, the damage had been inflicted, and the ambiance was compromised, prompting Naruto to exhale deeply as Harley signaled approval to Myra with a thumbs up. Naruto rolled his eyes and stood up straight. I am confident I understand the reason. And just wait. I assure you I will defeat him thoroughly until he pleads for me to cease. And afterward. He paused to place a kiss on Raven's cheek. You will belong to me as I will belong to you, Naruto stated, gazing intently into her violet eyes. Raven looked at him with a shocked expression on her face. She was astonished that he would make such a promise in front of an audience. Nonetheless, for some reason, she felt a sense of relief as her eyes grew slightly misty. Understood. Raven nodded, displaying a smile that had not been witnessed by anyone for several years. It was a moment of pure bliss that intensified Naruto's desire to bring her joy more frequently. The half-demon rose from the couch and embraced him firmly, wrapping her arms around his waist. At this moment, we commence. Kurama reflected quietly as he observed the shadows around him. Upon closer inspection, one would observe that his substantial physique appeared diminished for some reason. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you for watching this amazing video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.